Hello everyone, happy Monday. Let's get started. Great. Thank you for submitting your homework on time. Most of you, I think probably only 5, 10 people didn't submit the homework, but the majority submitted the homework. I graded the homeworks. Um, I was going to post the grades, but something happened, so I had to regrade a few things to go over them. So I will post them hopefully by tomorrow or tomorrow night. And everyone did like very well, I think, based on like 99% was between 9 and 10, and maybe 9.5 and 10, something like that. So very well. Okay. First, I will go over the presentation to finish the presentation we started last session, and then quickly review the homework as well. I've added the story file. This includes the tables. If you weren't here last session, or you just want to like make a copy of this and start with me, you can do that. You just need to download it and then open it in either like Access, whether you're using virtual machine or not. Again, please like use maybe Firefox as a browser. Each one of these browsers have different issues. I've seen the least amount of issues with different softwares in Firefox, so I think it is better that we use Firefox. Okay. So last session, we started this conversation about creating a database, importing the data to the tables, importing the table data, and then adding the taking the other steps. I've updated the presentation so it includes like the more screenshots of the steps as well. We are gonna skip this part now that we've done it last session. In the next few sessions wherever we talk about access, I will give you the start file. So we're not gonna start from the beginning from this session and after this session. We'll already have the data imported to the access file, and then we'll use the start file to create the relationships and then use it for creating queries. So we talked about like adding tables, or if we already have the tables in the database, then you can review the tables, table design, their fields, their primary key, the foreign key assigned to each table, or like added to each table using like this query from the home page by going to the table, click right on the table itself, and click on Design View. So I will open, let me open this file. I have it on already in here. I will open it. Actually, what I will do is since I already worked on that file last session, let me just re-download this file and then use that here. Okay, so we already have the tables here. If you want to look into the table design, we can click right on each table and click on the design view. That's why we can see how a table is designed. Its primary key, its fields, and then also the data type of each field. In this case, the primary key is set to number. Like other fields, we have like the short text. These are like based on what you're gonna put or like what kind of data you have, and then you can decide the data type for each field. And we have different data types that we can see here. Like for example, for created date, we've used date time. For zip, we used zip code, we use number, and then for city and state, and other fields, we've used short text. We can, if we double click on the table itself, this time we will see the data in each table. Okay, so we have data table design, and then we have the data sets. These are two different things. First, you like have the design and then import the data or add the data to the tables. We can see that in the customer table, we have information about the customers or data about customers. Then we have the reservation table as well. Here we can see that like customer ID exists here and the rest of the data about reservation. Okay. So one key step is to going to each table and making sure that each table's primary key is set correctly. Once you confirm that, then you can move on to the next step. Every time you want to assign a primary key for a table in the design view, you can click on the field itself, and then in table design, either click on the primary key or click right and then check the primary key. Since we already done that last session, it shows you that customer ID is a primary key of this table. So we did that last session, and then we talk about relationships. In terms of relationships, once we design the tables, add the primary keys, then we need to link the tables, create the relationships. A lot of times I see like this error that you might like see when you're trying to create the relationship. So I added to the slide. If you see this error, error is because of all having these, like you see here, reservation. I was trying to add the relationships between tables. I also had them open, their tables open. So it wasn't allowing me to create the relationship. So again, remember, if you see this because you already have some tabs open. So first, close this, go and close each one of those tabs, and then reattempt to add the relationships. That should work. Okay, so that's one step. Make sure that the primary keys are set correctly, and then we go to create the relationship. Before we move on to the next part, which is creating queries and like working on them, learning what is query. These are the exact steps we need to take with every day, with every practice we're gonna get. We'll make sure that the primary keys are correct, like the database table designs are correct. Next step, create the relationship and then save it and then move on to queries. So in this case, in the relationship, for adding, like creating a relationship in the database tools, I click on relationships and I can see that this is like a new window is open. Here, there are a few steps we need to take, okay, for creating the relationships. What is that? First, you're gonna drag every table that you have into the window. Drag the tables to the window. Okay, drag the tables into the window. At this point, we've created the tables, we've assigned the primary keys, we've loaded the data, but they're not linked to each other. So in order to link them, we're gonna start from a place, okay? I've identified that I have the customer ID, here is the primary key, and also I have the customer ID in this table. That tells me that customer ID is a foreign key here, and also these two tables are linked to each other. So how do I link them? In order to link a table to another table, you need to find where that field that we have customer ID is the primary key. In this case, customer ID in the customer table is the primary key. So here is the primary key. So I'm gonna start from there. I will click on the field and then drag it, okay? I will drag it, click on the field and drag it wherever I have customer ID one by one. So I have customer ID here. So I click here and then drag it on like on top of that table and then leave it there. That's when this like window opens up and we can see like customer, it shows you the name of the the source and also the table that you're trying to link. The name of the fields are the same. And then we have three options here. We need to check them. Why? Like in terms of enforced referential integrity, we are linking two tables to each other. We are saying each reservation depends on having a customer. The customer should already exist in the customer table, and then you can create a reservation for it. So if for some reason you attempted to make some changes to the records about that customer in the customer table, that should also be applied to every record that is linked to that person. For example, what if a customer wants to delete their account? That customer has a few reservations. So what should happen? First, we need to find the reservations for that customer in the reservation table, delete those records, and then go to the customer table and delete that customer's info. If you don't do that in the correct step, in the exact step, like when you attempt to delete the record of a customer, it is going to show you an error and say, oh, no, there's already like this table is linked to another table and like you cannot do that. First, you need to go to the other table and delete the other records that are linked to this customer. So this referential integrity helps us to make sure that we never like make that mistake. And then also we have the update, cascade update and cascade delete that again apply any changes from one table to the linked tables. And here I can see one-to-many. You see the relationship type. It indicates that it's a one-to-many relationship. Okay. I can also see it here now, the one-to-many relationship. I will do that for the other one, for the other tables to link them. I see a reservation ID here and reservation ID here. This could be a little bit confusing and which could make us like make a mistake here. Because I see a reservation ID here with the key, and also I see reservation ID here with the key. Then I could make this mistake. I will click here and then drag it to the reservation ID. Okay. But always keep in mind, find the first, find where it is primary key. In this case, the reservation ID is not by itself a primary key. It's a joint table. So reservation ID and room ID together are the primary key of that table. But the room reservation ID for itself is a primary key in the reservation table. Reservation ID is appeared first in the reservation table and it's the primary key there. So I'm gonna click on that field and then drag it here to create that link. And then again, enforced integrity. Okay. I will do the same for the payment table. I see reservation ID here. So I click on the reservation ID, drag it here. Also, I see room ID and I have the room ID in the reservation items. So I will drag room ID to this table and create that link. Okay. That's how now we've linked the tables that are related to each other. We added the links. Before we move on to the next step, I want to mention this. The database design is one of the most important part of a database, because you get to a point that you have 20, 30 tables here, and each one of them are linked to different table. Like this, if I see them, most times in order to understand a database, I need to look at the database design. If I look at this, I'm going to get confused. That it's kind of messy. It's kind of it's not organized well. Now take into account, you might have 20, 30, 40, 50, more than that table. And there's so many links there. So organization in the database design, in here, the organization is very important. You want to think about how do I organize them? How do I place the tables into this like design so that it makes it easier to understand the links, how the data flows. Okay, the data flows. You see, the relationships will tell you the flow of data from a table to another table. So I want to see that data flow. So first, I will try to make sure that like if two tables are linked directly to each other, they kind of like have direct link. Okay. So here, that's how it starts. If I have a table that links two tables, like a joint table, place them in the middle. Okay. That way I kind of like know this. Okay, this is the table that links these two to each other. Okay. Then this could be here, but it wouldn't be better if I place it here. Why? Because it shows me the data flow. Data flow from customer to reservation to payment. Meaning that you place a reservation, then you pay for it. So you can follow that data flow and it makes it easier to understand the database now. So it makes sense. It's much easier to see how the data is going through this like through these tables, and we record them, we have access to them. So this way, now how much it changed. I can see that now I can understand it much better. Okay, so also whatever you place this design, it doesn't matter into the query design and Nexus stuff, it doesn't matter there. The part that it matters is like when I look at this, I can understand what I'm dealing with. And I can interpret the data flow and interpret the database design and in actually how a system is designed, because usually that's the way that the database is designed, it's the way that the system is going to get designed. So organize as well and follow the data flow. Okay, I'm gonna save this. Okay, I will save it. Now we've added the links between the tables and I can close them. So what is a query? A query is a database object that allows you to retrieve, filter, sort, and manipulate data from one or more tables. It's like asking a question from your database. Remember, initially we talked about in the first two sessions, we were talking about data versus information, that the data comes and then you process it to produce information so it can be used for decision making. Now we have the data, we want to learn how to process it, how to produce information from it. Okay, we have tables, we have data recorded in each table. For themselves, they might not present some type of information, but we want to produce that information. We want to put them together, like it creates some process that creates that output for us, that creates an information. We can use it for decision making. And examples of a query is like are these: which rooms are available on a certain day? Show me all customers from a specific city. For example, tell me like top 5 rooms that get the highest number of reservations. Okay, I can look at the reservations. I can see reservation for different rooms, but it doesn't tell me which rooms are more like attractive for users or like have more interest. But I can produce that information. I can create a query that gets that from the data sets and produces that output, tells me top 5 most favorite rooms in that building. Okay, so we are going to work on that, so how to create these queries and then create these results and find answers for them. In order to create a query, in the create tab, we have a query design. So we can, every time for each query, we are going to create one by clicking on query design, and that's what we get. A 2-level panel, I guess. One top panel is where we specify the tables that we are going to use in that query. And then the lower panel, that's where we create the query. Okay, that's where we create the query, specify the criteria. So we have two parts here. Okay, top panel and like in the top panel, depending on the query, we're going to read the query and understand where do we have the data for that query. We're going to identify which tables we're going to use or we have to use to be able to create that query and produce the output. And if once we identify that, we drag those tables to the white space here, and that's how we can use those tables and reference them. Okay. So that's where we add the tables. Here we don't make any changes. We don't make any changes to the tables, to the table designs in this part. Okay, we just drag them to indicate, hey, we're going to use these tables. That's it. And also in this part, you're going to create the query. If you want to change the tables, you have to go to the table design view. If you want to change the relationship, you have to close this and then go to the relationship. So each one of them have like a different place for like making changes. So we need to like find that and like go and apply that change there. Anyway, okay. So here I also have the grid. Okay, there is a grid with 6 rows. The first one is the field. Field row is where you specify field of a table, which field you want to use. Either you use one of the fields from a table or you create a new field. In the next session or like session after that, we'll talk about how to create a new field. Sometimes we just select one of the fields from the table. Then we have a table row. That's where we know like this field comes from which table. The field comes from which tables. For example, customer names comes from the customer table. That's what we will see there. Then we have a sort row. That's when we can use to sort the results. We have a show row. This is where we want to specify whether you want to have this row like field or like this column in the output table or not. We'll talk about this in an example later. And then we have a criteria row that we will use for filtering the results. We can talk about this next session. Okay, so example of it would be here, where you will see the field. Once you added the table, you will have access to the fields of that table. The first row indicates the field, which column or which field you're selecting from that table and from which table. So this one shows you the table that you're getting that field. So we already kind of like familiar with the data set, but this is an introduction, like info about the data set if you want to download the star file. And then let's work on the first query. So we have a query, create a query that shows customer's first name, last name, city, state, and email address. The output should show these columns. The output should show this column. So the first thing I want to identify is that what is the query asking me to do? Yeah, the query is asking me to get information. Okay, I'm not updating anything. I'm not doing any calculation. I'm just getting information from a table. What is that table? So looking at the output tables, output columns, I should know which tables I'm going to use. Sometimes you need to check the query itself as well as the output table to be able to identify the tables that you're going to use. In this case, first name, last name, city, state, and email. Where they are, in which table do we have them? We have this data points about the customer in the customer table, right? So that's what that's the table that we are going to use here. So in this case, I will just drag the customer table because now I know I'm going to use fields from that table. Everything I'm looking for, first name, last name, city, state, email, exists in that table, exists in the customer table. So I drag the customer table here. Okay. I can see those fields here. Do I need more tables to be like to add here. In this query, we don't need any more like tables. If for some reason we make a mistake and added a table here, and we realize that we didn't use it, just click right on the table itself and remove that table from the design. Okay. We only want to have the table that we actually use. After creating the query, you might like add a table and then create a query, add the fields, and then you realize I didn't use anything from that table. That means that, hey, that's an extra table. I want to remove it. You shouldn't include it in the list of tables. Now, what do we need here? We need the first name, last name, city, state, and email. There are different ways to add the fields we are looking forward to this week. One of them is to double click on the field itself. So first name, last name. The other way is to, if you click here in the field row and click on this like a drop down, you will see the fields of that table or any table that you have here. You will see them show up here and you can select them. In this case, we need the first name, last name, city, state, and email. Okay. So I added all the fields I need. That tells me that this was enough for me. This table included all the data I needed for a customer or for creating, for finding an answer for this query. Once we added we created the query, then we can run this here, click on run, okay, to run that query and see whether we actually produce the requested output. Okay, now, yes, we can see for each customer, right? For each customer, we can see their like first name, last name, and email. So we are able to correctly create that output. Okay. How do we go back? Multiple ways. If you see, like, you can click on this view to go back. If you don't see that, you can click on the query, you can click here and then click on design view and then go back. This is a query design view. Anything that you see here is a query design view where you create your design, your query. Then, okay, this is the output table. Why do I emphasize that? In most, like in the questions that I'm going to ask you to like to work on in the homeworks, in the assignments, what I'm looking for is not the output table, it's the query design. I want to see the query design. So anytime I ask you, I want you to like show me your query design, this view of the query, not the output table. Now let's save the query. So click right here, click right, save the query. I will just name it query 1 and we can save it. Okay. How are we going to use this? Now that we created that query and it saved it, next time I'm not going to create the query again. I will just double click on that query and it runs the same query and it gives me the same result depending on current data. Okay. So if I add new customers, add new data to each table, I just need to run the query again. Okay. I don't need to create the query every time. Just double click on that and it runs the same query on the tables. If I want to go and update the query, click right on the query and then go to design view. Okay. Click right on the query and then design view. Okay. Next query. Create a query that shows customer's first name, last name, reservation date or event date, and payment amounts. The output should show first name, last name. And then we also want to sort the output so that the customer with the last name closest to Z are shown at the top of the list. Okay, so looking at this query, which tables do we need? Where is the data is located in the current design? Which table? Yes. Exactly, right? Let's go back and see, okay, customer's first name and last name are in the customer table. Reservation date or event date in the reservation table. And then payment amount is in the payment table. Let's see, I don't know it, okay? First, create a new query. Okay, I add this table and I see that I have the first name, last name, but something is, the other ones are missing. Okay, the other ones are like, don't exist here. So I will add the reservations here too. I can now see the event date. Okay, you can see that event date exists in the reservation table. Is that enough? But I don't see the payment amount or amount. So I still need one more table which stores that data. Which one is it? The payment. In the payment table, for each reservation, I have the payment ID, the reservation ID, amount, payment date, payment method, that transaction number. So transaction ID here is just a number we recorded. It's not like a foreign key or primary key of anything. Just like for each payment, we record a transaction number. So now that I've added the tables I need for this query, then I can work on the query to create it. So I want to add first name, last name, okay. I want to add the reservation or event date. I need the amount from the payment table. Oh, not this one. Okay, if you are like me, just by mistake added, you can just click on this drop down and then change it to amount. Okay, first name, last name, event date, and amount. The query is also asking for sorting the output based on the last name. So here in the sort row, we have two options. Either we don't sort the results, or we can sort them descending or ascending. Descending means like from highest to lowest, from end to the beginning. Ascending means the opposite one, from lowest to highest, from the earlier, from the farthest in date, for example, to the earliest one. So just keep that in mind. If you're not sure about it, you can run it once to see whether you're seeing that the result that you're looking for. So I want to sort the result based on last name, and let me check the names. I can see that it's it is from the Z part closest to the end to the opposite side. So we've created a query that creates this output table for us, including first name for every customer, first name, last name, the reservation date or event date, and the amount. The amount. Okay. Again, I can go back to the query design, and this is my query design. Any question? Okay. Let's save the query. So this is our query 2. I will save that query 2 and then close it. A lot of times we just need we have already a query, and then we want to also change it a little bit, but create a new query. In that case, we can make a copy of a query that we already have. So in this case, query 2, I already have a query 2. I want to make a copy. So click right on the query itself and copy it. Okay, click right and copy it, and then click right again here in this space and click on paste. So you can add a new copy of that query, and I will name this query 3. Okay, query 3. Query 3. Then I can click right on the query itself, go to design view, and now what was what I'm looking for to. I have this query. I want to have another query that, in this case, it shows, okay, it shows just last name, event date, and amount. So now we can see the show row Okay, in the show role, you have select, unselect. If you unselect that field or that color, it doesn't show up in the output table. You unselect it, it doesn't appear in the output table. So I unselect this and then run the query, and I can see that this query creates like this output: last name, event date, and amount. Okay. Now I can save it. So that would be with the making a copy. Then anytime we run each one of these queries, they will create they will show us the output tables for each one of them. Yes.
Can you show the query design for
Yeah, sure. Design view. Okay. No. Okay, for some reason, let me see. Okay, so it automatically, when I run it, because I unselected it, it removed it like that field. But what I had was the first name. I unselected that and it doesn't include it in the output table. You might be asking, like, why do we add like the field and not show it? In this case, yes, in this case, it doesn't, it is not necessary here. We just don't include it. But we'll see other queries in the next few sessions that we have to add them, and we will use them, for example, for filtering the results. We say, for example, only show the people who have more than 10 reservations. And then like we hide that particular field that we use for filtering the results. In those cases, this show like select unselect will become very necessary and like will be used frequently. So that's the purpose of having the show row in query design. Okay. Okay. Next question. So I want to give you a few minutes. I'll work on this query, create it, upload it here. And also I'm going to ask you to submit it later. So for that, you will need to add your name and full name here so you can record it. So like this, just select this one just in case. Work on the query. You will need to take a screenshot of the query design. Take a screenshot of the query design, upload it here, and then in Finish, you can download the PDF. If you're using the virtual machine, you still can open this link in the virtual machine. Okay, let's see if I can copy it. In your virtual machine, in your browser, you can use it and simply just upload it. It doesn't show it. So the link is here. We need to type it. Let's see. Read the query, identify from which tables you can collect or retrieve that data, and then you can start like creating the query, dragging the tables to the table section, and then adding the fields to be able to produce that output. If you have questions, let me know.
Actually, really it's like an interview. Would you maybe like email me like a attendance code? Is that fine? Okay. Or should I just email you, I guess?
Just email me. Right. Thank you. Let's see. Sorry, I opened it. I forgot to post this. Okay. Question. Okay. Okay, let's work on the review this questions. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay, great. Query is asking us to show the payment information. But like in the output table, we are looking for reservation ID, first name, last name, event date, and then payment method, payment date, and transaction ID. So looking at the columns, I want to identify which tables I'm going to use. Which tables? Customer, right? I have the first name and last name in the customer table. Event date in the reservation table. I also have like a start time, end time. These are part of the reservation table. But these fields, these columns exist in the payment table. So I need to use these three tables. So let me go back to something happened here. I have to refresh that. Let's see. Sorry. Give me some time. So on the website, whenever you like to work on it, take a screenshot, upload it here. go to finish, download the PDF, check the PDF includes your screenshot, and upload this on Canvas. Okay, you're back. So create a query. We are gonna drag customer reservations and payment table here. And we need to select a set of columns. Reservation ID from reservation table, first name, last name, event date from the reservation table. That's where we have it. A start time and end time are in the reservation table. And then amount, payment date, and also the transaction ID, right? Okay. And then it says sort the output by event date. So I will under event date, where do I have the event date? I forgot to add the event date here. Event date and then descending. I select the descending, so I see the earliest first. So I selected them. I need all the fields and the output table, and then I can run the table and see that they're sorted based on the earliest event date. And that's what, like, we can compare it with the request to see if we're exactly showing that output in here. And we can see that it's we created the requested table. So that's it about the query 4. I will save this also here, query 4. Okay. I can run it every time and I can go back to the design view. Okay, question. Okay, great. If you don't have any questions, this was part like completing this first step of this introduction to query design. We still have a few minutes left. I want to go back to homework and review the homework. Okay. Okay. So in the table design, right? In the table design, what we were looking for, we wanted to see the design of each table, like the design view of that table. So we looked at this, like these two tables, and we can see that some of the like problems here. We have for each workshop, we have the instructor name, email address, and gender repeated with every reservation. That was the application that would make it harder to identify which instructor is like teaching which workshop. So the first step would be like separate these from each other, having an instructor table to record the instructor's information data, and then also a workshop table. So I would have an instructor, or instructors, and then workshop. For each instructor, I will assign like a unique identifier. So I have the instructor ID that uniquely instructor and uniquely identifies each instructor. Okay, and also workshop ID. And I know from here, okay, so we separated them. Now we need to link instructor to the workshop table. So I need to have instructor ID as a foreign key, right? As a foreign key here, instructor ID, adding it as a foreign key here. That's how we connect instructor table to the workshop table. We remove the tables from columns from here, or fields from the workshop table, and added it to a new table. Now we connected them. Similarly, let's look at the other table. We have the registration table. We have participant name, email, phone. You see, every reservation is repeated. The application, redundancy, and also identification is not guaranteed here. So for that, I will create two tables. I will create a participant table with like a participant like ID that uniquely identifies each record, and then I will add the other fields. Okay, So what do I have for participant name? I have participant email. The rest of the fields that need to be added to this table. And then I also have a registration table. Okay, registration table again, every registration, we want to specifically, okay, assign to the registration table, we want to assign one unique identifier for each record in the registration table. So I will add a registration ID, primary key. So I created a table for participant. So I don't have this field anymore in the registration table. Now I need to connect them. How do I connect them? Using the primary key. Primary key of participant as a foreign key in the registration table. Also, let's look back at this participation registration table. We have for each registration, we see a workshop. So we can see which workshop that person was registering. But the problem is here, the problem we have here is that it used the workshop title. This is not a unique thing. Maybe we have multiple workshops with the same title. So we cannot use that. Instead of that, we are going to use the primary key of the workshop table, not workshop title. Instead of this, okay, we will have workshop ID, which is the primary key of the workshop table as a foreign key here. Then we can add the other fields for the registration, like payment method, okay, payment method and other fields. Okay, so that would be like, that was like this part. Also like other fields that need to be added for instructor. So this was our first design view. And then in the next one, okay, in the next tab, this was like what we were looking for. We said up to that point, right? The first initial view of like the workshop was saying for each workshop, there is an instructor. For each workshop, there is an instructor. Now we want to we are changing this design into allowing the system to have for each workshop can be taught by multiple people. So instructors teach multiple workshops and workshops can be taught by multiple people. In that case, that's why we create, like what we did, we had the instructor ID in the workshop table as a foreign key. We removed it from there. We don't have a direct link between them anymore. And we have a third table, workshop instructor, let's name it, that links the table. It's a joint table and links them. We can also add had the other tables without any changes. So the only change we made, removed that instructor from ID from this table and placed it in a joint table. So that was what I was looking for. And also with this completed. Okay. So one more thing, just quickly take a screenshot or take attendance. And then that should be it for today. Okay. Sorry, it takes so much time. Okay. Thank you. I'll see you on Wednesday. We'll move to the next part of core design. If you have any questions, come here and ask me.